monetization for every user is the wave of the future. I keep saying it. I think that there isn't a person right now that isn't subscribed to at least one thing. And once subscription becomes more and more the common vernacular of how we engage with content, social media is the last, frontier that's left. When you think about TV and film with Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus and music with Spotify and Apple Music. And so subscriptions are just the language.
All right, today we got Issac Hayes III with us. He's the co-founder and CEO of Fanbase, an app that helps creators monetize the content that they put out in the world and get what's theirs. So Issac, thank you for joining. And it'd be great to just hear from you how things been going with you and how things been going with Fanbase. What's the latest been?
Man, we just closed our second seed round of $2.6 million on Start Engine. So we've raised a total of $6 million in less than a year. It's been phenomenal. We're adding a lot of amazing functionality to Fanbase. Some new features are rolling out in the next couple of weeks, a new version of audio, which is one of our flagship features on the platform that's monetized for all users. So it's an exciting time at Fanbase.
Can you talk to me about your fundraising process a bit? Because I know that you crowdfunded the 6 million. You were able to do it in a few different stages, but what made you go that route as opposed to the more traditional venture capital fundraising route?
Two things. One was just a recommendation by a really good mentor of mine to do so. And it was in COVID because, we couldn't move. And I had a real kind of like off-putting conversation with a VC, and it immediately reminded me of the music business. And so in my mind, I immediately thought, okay, VCs are like the label, and I'm like an artist trying to get a record deal. And so Start Engine gave me the opportunity to go independent and sell my shares out of the trunk of my car to the tune of $6 million, which gives us better leverage and lets people know that we don't need venture capital to raise serious cash. And so that's really how it, wound up being that way.
Yeah, I've heard the comparisons from a lot of people. And I think the thing you often hear from folks that do crowdfund is that it can take a lot of time to get there. But at least from what I've seen from your process, you were able to get several thousand investors in a pretty short amount of time. So what were the steps from that perspective to keep the momentum hot and to make sure that you had a strong pipeline?
I think the best thing is when I think the biggest benefit was the fact that it's a product that the investors can actually use in real time. So it's not like they're giving to something and they're investing in something and not knowing what the product will be or what it does. They're a part of it in real time, and it's something that's relatable to them. If I go and invest in a tech startup that does something to do with aerospace engines, cool, but I'm not with it every day. I just sit back and hope that they make the best decision possible with my investment. But Fanbase is something that I think is more personal to people because of where we are in social media. So I think that gave it a lot of energy because people are a part of the process and they feel part of the platform and part of this journey together in real time. So it's something that you can use, and then who better, like I say, to give actual equity in a social media startup than to the users themselves that will actually make the platform grow.
And I think you were able to find some influential folks with that too, right? You got Candy Burris, you got Charlemagne, and of course with their platforms, they were able to help amplify and can connect you with other investors or just other creators given what they've done.
Yeah, but we honestly haven't used them in that fashion. And I actually don't typically want them or to do that particularly yet. And the reason being is because I like the fact that they are silent in their action, because a lot of times when people of notoriety step out in a space where they're investing in a platform, it may turn other people off that feel like, well, I didn't get that opportunity. And in social media, it's more about the users. The most important investors on Fanbase, and we have some really big name investors. The most important investors on Fanbase are the actual users, the larger, broader, probably sea of 8,000 plus individuals that have put their money in and actually use the platform on a day-to-day basis, who will be those day-to-day, hardcore super users. But the relationships and those investors that are of a high stature, like a Snoop Dogg and stuff like that, their time will come later. They'll know exactly when they're going to get on and when they're going to turn the engine up on the platform. So we're just, we're focused on the core audience and the core investors of the platform being what we really focus on in Fanbase.
And with 8,000 investors, you mentioned $6 million raised, it makes it pretty affordable too, for people to be able to have a stake. Because I think that's one of the challenges that you often see from institutional money that comes through, or some of the minimum buy-ins for some investments, is that it isn't always the most accessible for folks that may be interested. So I think you were able to at least allow that to happen too, given the amount of people that were able to invest for the total amount you have.
Absolutely. I mean, the accredited investor rule has kind of been a barrier for all people. I don't care what race you are. If it's a law that's been in effect since 1933, it's just only given opportunities to rich people to actually invest in early stage companies. So you're coming out of the Great Depression. If you ever wonder why none of your family members got a call to invest in IBM or Microsoft or Apple or Uber or Facebook and so on and so forth, it's this accredited investor rule that has given all the best opportunities at wealth to the wealthy. And so I love the fact that Barack Obama and Joe Biden passed the Jobs Act and allow people like myself to go to my peers and the public to actually have the same opportunity that VCs and accredited investors have to get a piece of the American dream by investing the same way that all these other people have been able to do for 83 years.
I think we're going to see the rules continue to break down on that. I know now they have that flexible option where I think if you take the Series 63 or 7 or one of those tests, then you can become accredited. So that's one way to pass the income thresholds. But I feel like even that is probably going to break down at some point. That just feels like where everything is heading.
It should. I mean, one of the seed investors in Uber, guy by the name of Oren Michaels, only invested $5,000 into Uber, but when it IPO'd in 2019, his $5,000 was worth $24 million. And I'm like, well, how come we can go to Vegas and spend $5,000 on the crap table or go buy $5,000 worth of lottery tickets, but I can't invest in Uber? And I think that's the real crime, is that, it's okay that if you go blow your money gambling in that fashion, but not gambling in the fashion of investing your money in a startup like Uber, which wound up being very, very successful. So the rules have to change, and platforms like Start Engine are breaking down those barriers.
Right, especially when so many of the people using it and giving these startups their early validation are the ones that believe and see in the future. So I feel like those dots got to connect eventually. But
they will, for sure.
Going back to Fanbase itself and how things are, I read that you have a goal, be able to hit 1 million users in June. And it would be great to hear what your strategy has been in terms of acquiring customers. What's been the most effective thing that you've done to get more creators and users onto the platform?
I think the biggest thing is actually just word of mouth, right? It's the quality of the product. And then I think we're in a very unique time, a very opportunistic time for platforms like Fanbase to emerge because of this transition from users wanting more access to their following. They're getting tired of words like shadow banning and content suppression and stuff like that. And algorithms are becoming the enemy of the common user on a platform, or even the super user on a platform, because platforms typically are profitable off ad revenue. And so for that to happen, you can't simultaneously provide visibility for every user on a platform and then run ads at the same time. That's counterproductive to the business model, because if that's the case, then the people that buy ads would just go to the users themselves and run ads that way, and then you would have no business model. And so Fanbase is just, emerging at a time right now that I think the conversation is different. Ad-based revenue for social media platforms is going to continue to change, and that puts us right at the right time to continue to grow. So word of mouth, and then timing is just helping us. And then we have an amazing creator advisory board of young people. And there's some other strategic partnerships that I'm really excited to begin working on that are really rooted in community and rooted in the culture of what we want on Fanbase, which is young centennial people of all races, ages, backgrounds, creating content and monetizing.
What are some of those partnerships? Anything you can share with us?
No, and the reason why I can't is because they're really savvy in the way. There's things that I think social media startups, I'll say this, like, I think Fanbase has the best advantage to become a social media unicorn by simply being in Atlanta. And what I mean by that is, like, Atlanta is the epicenter of Black culture in the United States of America. And what we know about Black culture is pop culture. And what we know about pop culture is what drives social media. And so therefore, if you're right at the epicenter of where the viral challenge is going to happen, or the newest funny influencer, or the dance challenge, or the artist is at, being able to have them be part of Fanbase and part of that community gives us a really big advantage. So some of those partnerships are rooted in culture and community and music. I can't announce them or say anything because it's really dope, though, the way that we have an advantage to do so. And I think a lot of the other platforms know that, which is why they kind of try to pivot and also try to acquire those users from Atlanta, the talent. They're like, oh, let's pay them. Let's try to get them, in the same way. But I think Fanbase just has a little bit more of an advantage.
I hear that. And thinking too about making sure that the talent gets paid fairly, I think that's been an underlying theme for so much of why you wanted to create this. There have been so many people that we've seen have become viral sensations or creators who have a strong following, but being able to really tap into that in a meaningful way hasn't always worked. And in some cases, it's everyone else making money instead of them. I think you had that story about the Ghetto Spider-Man and how the person behind that had blown up, but he's the one calling you like, hey, what do I do? Like, is anything that can help here? And you think about that and you just think about all these creators, whether it's folks on TikTok that are like the guy that does the hands video, he is, one of the biggest creators, but he isn't anywhere on that Forbes list of the top creators. So I feel like you being able to bridge that connection of, okay, there's clearly a market gap here and how we can have a platform that can close that and how big of an opportunity that is.
It's an enormous opportunity. I think, monetization for every user is the wave of the future. I keep saying it. I think that there isn't a person right now that isn't subscribed to at least one thing. And once subscription becomes more and more the common vernacular of how we engage with content, social media is the last, frontier that's left. When you think about TV and film with Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus, and music with Spotify and Apple Music, and print media with Forbes and the New York Times and Billboard, and then productivity software like Adobe Premiere Pro, Microsoft Word. Like, you're subscribed to something. You're probably subscribed to an app on your phone that allows you to edit your photos. And so subscriptions are just the language. And so I think that's going to be the language of the future moving forward. And it just gives us like it gives everybody a chance to make money, as opposed to the people that the apps highlight to be most successful because they're the best vehicles for ads to run in between their content. Think about that. Like, the greater audience of a platform like TikTok, since there's really only one kind of like channel, it's literally just a platform of short form video. So the wider audience on the demographic on that platform is a white audience, just based off the United States. So therefore, it would behoove them to have bigger white stars to run ads to monetize that larger audience. So that's what they kind of have to focus on. So Fanbase doesn't worry about that. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody can be superstar on the platform.
Yeah, and that piece about the subscriptions as well, and just everyone having them and seeing who can profit off of it, it also makes me think of exchange you and I had recently. We're talking about what's happening right now in the music industry and these catalog valuations too. You had shared a perspective that artists actually should not be selling their publishing or their catalogs because of how much room streaming has to grow. And you just look at some of the demographics on that.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? And how much bigger do you think this market will get?
Man, I think it'll be massive. Like I said, at the time, last year was 400 and I think it was 450 million people on music streaming services. This year it's like 525. It's jumped up. That's like, almost like 7 to 9% of all the people with the ability to have streaming services like Apple Music and Spotify on their phone have them. Over the next decade, by 2030, I think it'll be close to 1 billion people. So that'll be almost a little over double what is available. So imagine, and that's only like 1 billion. There's less than a billion. There's not even 1 billion people on music streaming services, but there's 6.3 billion people on the planet with smartphones. Satellite Wi-Fi, satellite internet is going to be something that is going to actually be more connected as opposed to where wires can't go. Satellites can go to provide people internet. And then with video, like there's only 222 million people on Netflix and there's 6.3 billion people. The available market share is massive. So, I mean, as big as a company as Netflix is, they don't even have 7% of the market of available people that can get on their platform. It's more like 3.5. So think of the growth potential that Netflix can have, or anybody that's providing subscriptions via content they can have. So that's why we're focused on person-to-person subscription content, which I think will trump everything in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's these two trends happening. Because one of the reasons everyone's buying the catalogs is exactly what you said. People see the upside of where streaming's going. On the other side, you're also seeing, whether it's Netflix or Spotify, the rapid growth that they may have had once starting to slow down a little bit. So you do think about, yes, a service like Facebook, if we think of that as being like the most ubiquitous thing out there, several billion people on it, but it's also because it's free, right? So it's like there's some number of what are the total number of people that would be willing to pay $9.99 in the US for a music streaming service, or whatever that price difference may be in their respective place. We still haven't gotten there yet. And I'm curious, what that actual number will be. And it's just so hard to know, because I think some people think it's going to be a lot higher, and there's other people that think that we're close to that peak. So who knows?
I don't think we're anywhere near the peak, because it's the nature. The market will grow as the youth grow. And so as kids are trained and kind of used to subscriptions and virtual currency and in-app purchases, it's that they've known that their whole lives. I remember when I was first discussing building Fanbase, I spoke to someone that was in their 30s. They were like, I never subscribed to another person. What? Why would I do that? And then I was in the Apple store and I just randomly asked this 20, I think the young lady was probably like 21 years old. I think I asked how old she was. She said, I'm 21. I was like, if you could subscribe, I asked her what her favorite group was. And my first inclination that she was going to name a very famous artist. And she named an indie band, right? So what's your favorite artist? I thought she was going to name somebody like, Ariana Grande. And I said, if you could subscribe to that person for $3.99 a month, that band for $3.99 a month, and they would post videos of them working on their album or exclusive photos and stuff like that, and maybe they might let you buy, tickets to their show before anybody else, would you do that? And her answer was like, fuck yeah, it's only $3.99. And I'm like, that was when I'm like, okay, I got to do this, because they don't care. Remember, there were legions of people that swore they wanted to own their MP3s. And I'm like, man, it's $10 a month to listen to everything that's ever been created. Owning your MP3s is out of here. That's a done deal. So I think the market will go as the youth decide, and the youth are showing the the propensity to spend more virtually. Their Cash App, their Venmo, their PayPal, their NFTs, their crypto, they're all in that space. So I think it's going to actually explode way beyond what it is now.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing too is that there are just so many other services beyond the digital streaming providers that are offering some type of music experience that's going to drive up the platform, right? Like it doesn't
Yep.
always have to be streaming. It could be in-app purchases, the same way that, these kids go wild about V-Bucks or whatever it is in these games. It's going to be the same thing there. And as more
Yeah.
and more of these companies get music licensing, like we're going to see that continue to happen. So it'll
Yeah,
be
for sure.
interesting.
It'll be. I'm telling you, it's gonna be. Look, I'm spending money on Call of Duty to make my gun cooler or wear a cooler outfit. These kids are gonna spend money to have access to shoes before anybody else can, tickets before anybody else can, experiences that no one else can have for small amounts of prices, and that give them exclusivity and clout and bragging rights. Trust me, I know it's exactly what's going to happen.
Mm. You mentioned Call of Duty for yourself. Are there any other personal areas that you've been personally, attracted to, whether it's a single game or a solo thing where, a majority of your attention has gone to?
Just Call it. I only play one game, Call of Duty. I've been playing Call of Duty for like 12 years. Um, I like content, so I used to fly drones like all the time, like and not just for the fun of flying, but the fun of capturing the actual content and creating content. But other than that, I mean, Fanbase, social media is like it's a passion of mine because I like the connectivity and I like the potential. I like the potential of being disruptive and where we can create unique experiences via technology. That's one thing I love about technology. Technology doesn't give my brain like a limit. I'll have conversations with my CTO and say, hey, can we do this? And he said, the question is not if we can do it. It's just how long it'll take us to do it, how many man hours, but we can do it. And that's the greatest feeling to have. Like, can we make this do this and this do this? And he's like, yeah, we can do that. And so having like your imagination not being limited, the only limitation is your resources, like man hours and manpower and funds, then cool. Like I understand that part. So don't give me $100 million. Move out of the way. Don't let me raise $100 million. You want to see an app like be flyer than anything you ever seen? Fanbase is phenomenal, and we raised $6 million. Imagine what we do when we raise 60 or 600 million. It's going to be phenomenal. That's why I'm excited. I'm like, oh, it's going to be go time for sure.
So what does the future fundraising timeline look like for you? When do you think you'll raise again, and how big do you think that'll be?
I mean, we've been getting calls, which is kind of curious because I guess the A&R of what a VC is, their version of the A&R has been starting to reach out because they see Fanbase making waves. And so now it's not me going to VCs, but it's VCs coming to us, which is better. But I feel we still have a lot of work to do in a short period of time. But I would like to raise a significant Series A somewhere, in the 8-figure range, really to get us, the mid 8-figure range to really get us where we need to be because there's so much involved with data and streaming and music licensing. And so these platforms have to be funded to scale. And so we're going to need it. I love the notion of being able to continue to raise through equity crowdfunding with people. And I think I'll find ways to continue to do that. But VCs also serve a very good purpose of their knowledge, their relationships, their experience. So I'm not opposed to them. I'm just sometimes primarily opposed to the terms. And so now we can have conversations that are different than that. I'm not opposed to the VCs. I'm just opposed to the terms. So sometimes we just have to work better at making sure we get fair terms by doing things on our own.
And I think the fact that you're at the place you're in now gives you the leverage to do that, right? I think one of the reasons that the unfair terms happen more often is because the founder or the founders don't come from that place of leverage. They're more so looking for the help just from being able to be sustainable and keep the lights on and all those things. you have that piece of it checked off given what you've been able to do, the amount you've been able to raise. So it's more so, hey, we're trying to go a bit faster. We're trying to do this, this, and this. If you want to be in, it would be great. But if you don't, there's other people knocking at the door who can make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, writing your own path, and I coming from the music business, like I look at percentages. So I'm on a platform called PitchBook where I can see like how much equity was given up for what percentage, and I'm like, what? You gave up what for 39% of the company? I'm like, hell no, you can't do that because you have to be strategic. And I know sometimes we want to get our product to market so bad, and we feel that once we get there, it doesn't matter if I gave up this much. It's going to be a success, and I'm going to be able to do this. But you have to be conservative with equity. You can't be selfish at the same time. People are going to invest money. They're going to want significant portions of your company. But I think the more work you do improving your model on your own, the more advantageous you are as a partner to VCs, because now you can work together. So I love my team. My team is brilliant. They're smarter than I am. I'm just a big idea guy that wants to make sure that the colors look good and the energy is right. And then the rest is up for us to really, structure this business. So I like writing our ticket that way by being independent, as I like to say.
So how big is the team now, and how big do you think it'll be end of this year?
So right now we have a team of 25 developers and probably 15 other personnel. So 40. But I think our development team would probably be 150, given a significant raise, and probably our executive team probably go from like 15 to 30 more people. I mean, I'm sorry, from 15 to 30 people. So it would grow. I mean, and that's with everything running at, at best case, if I had it my way, because we can build faster and more simultaneous functionality. And then I love, being able to pay really smart people to make Fanbase do amazing things in the right amount of time. So I'm looking forward to that, though. We have a game plan to really scale up to 1 million users by June. 2 months is like 2 months is, it's April, what I'm saying, April 8th. So we don't have that much time. But I'm looking forward to the grind.
And I also got to imagine that the Atlanta community and culture ecosystem you're around has and will continue to have so much of an impact on you. Can you talk about how beneficial it's been from that perspective? I know y'all got the gathering spot and you have so many other execs there. How important has that collective been?
It's been invaluable, because the first conversation that I had about building a startup, a social media platform, happened at the gathering spot. They were members that were in the tech space that I looked at as mentors. Their names are Jewel Burks, Barry Gibbons, and Justin Dawkins. They are all accomplished tech professionals in their own right. And the fact that I could sit right next to them like a kid, being able to talk to to talk to Michael Jordan or whoever and be like, yo, how do you do this? How do you do that? How are you able to do these things? And them lending their ear and lending their voice and their information to me is invaluable. I think that was really, the essence of community in Atlanta, especially in the Black tech space. There are just tons of brilliant people that I've met at those spaces. But those three individuals were like instrumental in helping me shape Fanbase to the company, because they told me, why it's important that you have a CTO that has a stake in your company. Why it's important, like what your deck must look like. Why, when it's to raise, how you scale, all these things that you have to bring together. And so that's the dope part about it. So the Atlanta community is invaluable in that fashion. We're all like, there's no ceiling of what you can achieve in a city like Atlanta with Black leadership. I was just I just saw a clip today about Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson being able to be elected to the Supreme Court. And Simone Sanders said, if we didn't elect Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff in Georgia, that would have never happened. He wouldn't have had the votes or the leverage to do so. And so a political community that's aware, that's African American, that understands how politics play in the ability for you to scale your business. And a city like Atlanta is invaluable. That's probably the biggest, asset to being anybody in the city is knowing that there's a political foundation that has been built on for over 60 years that kind of gives people the energy and the confidence to try things that no other people would try. Like Tyler Perry saying, I'm going to build a movie studio. Like LA and Babyface saying, we're going to bring a record company to the city. Like someone like The Gathering Spot or Pinky Cole with Slutty Vegan or Tracy Pickett with Hairbrella. Like all these amazing startups that are coming out of Atlanta, Georgia, and have come out of Atlanta, Georgia. So it's a place for you to dream and excel.
It really is. It's remarkable just to see how much of it stems. And I think so many of you as well have roots in music, and how I think that has been the core of what you all have been able to do and achieve. And it makes me think a lot about where your inspiration for why this is so important to you came from. You had obviously seen your dad's experience in the music industry and some of the challenges he had had with unfair contracts and things like that. Could you talk a bit about how that through line was for you in terms of the influence and seeing that inspired where you want to be the most impactful and how that shapes Fanbase?
Yeah. So, I mean, as a kid, getting into the music industry, the first thing I learned before I learned about music notes, I learned about music publishing. And it's just because that's what your family's going to tell you. Is like, look, all this creative stuff is great, but know your business, right? Because you can get taken advantage of. Don't get caught up in it. It's a joy. Like creating music, being a creator is the best feeling in the world. Making songs that people want to dance to and that are part of their lives and they'll never forget. But if you don't have that business, it's going to be something that you're going to wind up having a bitter taste in your mouth about, because you've created all this great music, but do you really benefit from it? And people that exploit you. So content ownership, ownership of your content, exploiting your content to your benefit, has always been something that's been in the back of my mind. So that's why I say I've approached tech with a music industry mindset, and nothing gets grimier than the music business. So like I said, tech is nothing compared to like the record business. So if you can handle the record business, you can handle tech, because the deals are what the deals are. The deals are straightforward. The music industry just makes up their rules. And so I had a great teacher in my father and my mom who just taught me about the business. So I think that helps a lot. It gave me quite a bit of perspective of why artists deserve to get paid more for the content they create. And that's any user on social media. Those are the people that are making these dances go viral. Those are the people that are being funny. Those are people that are bringing really great thought-provoking content that get you thinking, get you inspired, get you to vote, get you to, to protest. So we have to, make sure that those people have an opportunity to really make sure that they monetize their energy in that way.
Definitely. And I hear you on how the music industry, there could be so much lack of clarity on these things. I know one of the things that you've also been pushing towards is to get the music rights back from your dad's music. How has that process been, and where are things right now with that?
So it's just a matter of time. I mean, the good thing about copyright law is they expire and they return to the original authors. And so we're just in the process right now of terminating so much Issac Hayes publishing. We've terminated all the songs that he wrote from 1963 all the way up to 1968 and going into 69. So there's his entire songwriting catalog as a songwriter. We haven't even gotten to the Issac Hayes era, but we've terminated, one of his biggest works, which is a song called Hold On, I'm Coming, that he wrote for Sam and Dave, that gets used in commercials all the time. So that process is moving along, very steadily. And now there's new opportunities to do new deals for my family, more equitable opportunities. The ownership is ours. So it's a great spot to be in right now.
That's good to hear. I mean, because we definitely know how tough it can be, especially on your side, whether you're an estate manager or you're just more broadly trying to get it back for the sake of your family or loved ones. So that's good to hear. And
Absolutely.
on the estate side of it, I know you do manage that. definitely heard a number of stories from different people that have managed estates over the years, both the good that comes from it, but also some of the challenges as well. Can you talk a little bit about how your experience has been on that front?
I mean, well, I always look at it. I look at a brand as like a hot air balloon, and so the higher the balloon goes, the more people see it. So it's the job of an estate to get that balloon as high as possible before you try to do things. So people say, well, how come there hasn't been a movie on your father? And I was like, well, there's more work. The balloon got to get a little higher. People got to see the brand and build it. So it's been tough because I think a couple things. Like black icons are not always held to the same standard or represented in media the way that white icons are. And what I mean by that, and that's the job of actually the black community to uplift its own icons to do so. And when I tell people all the time, I said, look, you go in a grocery store and you can practice this exercise. You can go in a grocery store and you're always going to see one of four people in a magazine at all times. You're going to see John Wayne, Ronald Reagan, Elvis Presley, or Babe Ruth at any time. And all of those guys have been dead for quite a long time. But they never let you forget their icons. They never let you forget Audrey Hepburn. They never let you forget Marilyn Monroe. They keep their legacy and their icons immortalized by continuing to push them and elevate them through media. Now, in black culture, we typically do that for a period of time, but you don't typically see Dorothy Dandridge or Sammy Davis Jr. or James Brown or Martin Luther King or people on covers of magazines just cause, right? It's usually some drama that, some tabloid is trying to bring back up, but just for the sake of doing an amazing pictorial on, Ray Charles and to continue to uplift his legacy, that doesn't happen that often. So we have to take better care of our black icons and continue to uplift them in media and do so.
That's a good point about the same faces you always see in the magazines or you go through the grocery store. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
all the names you mentioned are the ones that you often see. On the
Yes.
on the movie point, though, I do hope that we do get an Isaac Hayes movie at some point. I know you're saying that these things you got to wait till the bubble to get a little bit bigger, but it's one of these things where in this moment now where you're seeing, I'm sure you've seen them too, so many whether it's documentaries or the biopics themselves, and
Yeah.
some of them are a lot better than others, but you still know that they all had a ton of money poured into them. So
Yeah.
hopefully, while this run is going on, that bubble can meet and the stars can align to make something like that happen.
I think so. I mean, we definitely have a documentary that must be told before a feature film. I think the 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 biographical nonfiction version of what really happened and what my dad's life was really like is a story that I think should be told first, and then we can dramatize that and infantilize that in a way that I think brings the young people and old people together. And I have that in my mind of how we merge all these genres together, these generations together to really tell the story of Isaac Hayes, because I think he's probably the most relatable icon to the current generation of any icon that's passed away, by the way that he looked, by the way that the type of music he created. Because I mean, it's like there's not too many people that still wear clothes like Michael Jackson or wear their hair like James Brown, but there's several black men with bald heads and beards and sunglasses still in 2022. So the relatability is there. And then in terms of evergreen music, there's just like people continue to sample him to make new records. So I think he has the most connectable thread to the youth coming from his generation to now. So we're definitely going to capitalize on that and expand more on that in 2022 and 2023.
Who would you want to play him in a biopic?
Ah, I've said this before. Just off first glance of the surface, it's probably Jonathan Majors, right? I like Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is a phenomenal actor. I looked at him. I said he could play my dad. And it's the look. He could play him. But then there's you never know. I mean, there's always this sea of amazing um, talent out there, especially from, and people always get in trouble with saying it, but let me tell you something. The UK, Brits got those actors. Like, they come from places like, I'm like, most of the shows I watch on TV, the actors are British. I'm like, what? I'm like, Snowfall? I'm like, All American? But The Walking Dead? Like, what? Like, all these, like, it's like, yeah, those are the guys that you wouldn't know, but they're so good at what they do. You would have never thought that, but they're so classically trained. And then there's some, amazing actors here in the States as well. But like even Daniel Kaluuya, I'm like, yo, man, all these dudes, Brit dudes be crushing it. So who knows though? But Jonathan Majors is an amazing actor, and I think he could do a great job portraying Isaac Hayes.
He's a good one. I'm excited to see what he does in this Creed movie coming up, and the range is there. You saw the Marvel thing, and then of course, Last Black Man in San Francisco. He's so good.
Yeah, I'm like, what's he gonna do in Creed? I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like Creed 3? That's gonna be a good one right there. Like
I know.
That's gonna be an interesting one.
That'll be good. Daniel Kaluuya, of course. I mean, I think he's one of the best under 40 actors. I mean, period. He's one of the best folks under 40 we got right now.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, obviously what he did with Fred Hampton was amazing. So I think he would be legit, but it's good that you brought up the British piece, because it's one of these things where we both know if that happened, people would be, all up in arms like they are about a lot of, Black British folks that play American actors, but or based off of American icons. But it's like you yourself as the person representing the estate and the family is like, I would endorse this based on what you're seeing. But it's but I mean, we know that how that conversation would go.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I think again, like I said, Jonathan Majors was the first in mind that I had. And again, you never know who's out there by way. Like even like I watch just by actors in general. I watch Winning Time, the story about the Lakers, and the guy that plays Magic Johnson. They just found him. Like
he's so good.
He's so perfect for the role. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, there's always the right person for the role is out there. You got to find them. But it's just like because I don't think he hadn't been in anything. I think a lot of stuff. I don't think he had done a lot of stuff, but they were like, it's this guy in California, like give him a see what him. He came in the room, he smiled. They did that. I was like, that's Magic Johnson. And he's killing it. So you always know that. And I think, and also here's another dream of mine though, is I do want another Shaft film. I want another Shaft film with a modern Shaft, right? I want a modern day Shaft. And the person that I think that should play that is Mahershala Ali. I would love to see Mahershala Ali as a new Shaft do that. I know he's about to be Blade. His plate is full. So, but again, I think Shaft, modernized is something else too. And that was such a big part of my dad's career. So, I think there'll always be an appetite to have a Black, superhero in the sense of saying, a person that stood up for his community and fought crime and as a stand-up Black man. So I think there's always the ability to do that too.
Oh yeah, I think he would be great in that type of role, and I think that Blade definitely gives you some of that imagery of the black trench coat and everything and the whole vibe too. But I think that'll be good. And
sure,
even what artists would cover the version that your dad did, and with that, I mean, even thinking about that too from the song perspective, so many opportunities.
We have a lot of unreleased. I have a lot of unreleased Isaac Hayes music that was recorded around the same time, and trust me, there's some shafty stuff in there. There's some stuff that's phenomenal. Like I've been holding on to it for years now. Like since I think I transferred those masters in 2014. So for 8 years, I haven't even really let some of that stuff out because I said they're gonna call about another Shaft at some point, and I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna be ready to let people check it out.
Oh yeah, the call's coming soon, especially the way that content works right now. The call's coming soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Isaac, this has been great. It's been great to chat, hear more about Fanbase, hear about some of the other things you're working on with regards to the state. But before we let you go, is there anything else that you want to plug or let the Trapital audience know about?
I mean, of course, to download Fanbase. We have a new version of audio. We have audio chat rooms that are monetized. So a new version of audio is coming in in probably like a couple weeks. We have our version of TikTok and Reels called Flick. So you can make short form video And we have stories that are for followers and subscribers. So you can put your stories behind a subscription paywall as well. And I think that's something that's amazing too. Like I said, monetizing content for everybody is just something that I think the world's going to be all immersive in the future. It's like right now is that kind of that friction point where it's like, is it really going to be a thing? And people are going to resist it at first, but once it becomes part of the norm, the same way that all these other media, these media verticals are, social media is just the next vertical for subscription.
Definitely. We see where it's all heading, right? 10
Yes,
years
indeed.
ago, people thought it was going to be crazy. Like, oh, you're going to pay people on social media to do posts. And now influencers do it on the regular. It's just a matter of timing, platform, and everything. And I feel like you got the right mix.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Isaac. This was great.